Thank you, everyone, for coming. I want to just offer a few quick words before I begin. Thank you to my family and my friends, my clergy and mentors back home, Rabbi Harold Kravitz, Rabbi Aaron Weininger, Chazan Joanna Dulkin, my mentors at the JWB, Rabbis Irv Elson, Yonina Creditor, Josh Sherwin, and Yoni Warren. Thank you to all of you for always supporting me and guiding me on this path. And a very special thank you to my mentor at the Glen Rock Jewish Center, Rabbi Jennifer Schlossberg. Yasher Koach on a beautiful mincha. Thank you so much for your mentoring me in this Dvar Torah and just for being an incredible mentor over the past year and a half. You really inspired me to be the best rabbi I can be, so thank you. And to my communities at the Fitzgerald Hebrew Congregation and the GRJC who invited me to be their rabbinic intern. Thank you for teaching me how important it is and lovely it is to have a congregation to call your own that is just filled with just such wonderful and devoted individuals. And lastly, to my teachers here at JTS for 5 years of learning and Torah, never stopping your enthusiasm for teaching rabbinical students. And a special thank you to Dr. Sarah Wolf, whose class I took in third year really inspired my love of this and the sermon I'm about to give. O Lord, open my lips and let my mouth declare your glory. Once upon a time, there was a little girl. She had yellow hair, blue eyes, and a big smile. And one day she was walking through the forest and she heard a voice. Stefanie, Stefanie, if you find the magic apple tree, you will get one wish. This is the story that my dad told me before bed. It had everything I could want in a good story. A protagonist with a shockingly striking resemblance to myself. A daring quest for a magical item. A sprinkling of good morals and a happy ending. The story always went the same way, where the protagonist, Stefanie, succeeded in her quest. She found the magic apple, and the voice from the sky, who suspiciously sounded like my dad, granted the wish. But I tried to change the story. I wanted 3 wishes, not just one. If Aladdin could have 3, why couldn't I? But my dad would not let me change the story. I got my one wish, that I was back home with my family. We do not get to choose the stories we are told, and all the more so when those stories of our own past. As my mom likes to say, who you are now will not be who you are in 5 years. Frustrating as it is to hear when I'm so sure of the path that I am on and the things that I want, but admittedly, our experiences change us. Looking back on the story of how I got here, my mom was right. I am not the same person as I was 5 years ago. Parshat Yitro has the destiny-altering moment for the Israelites. Recently freed from 400 years of slavery, having survived a harrowing journey up to and through the Sea of Reeds, they stand at the base of Mount Sinai, ready to receive the Torah. The time in Egypt changed them from a nation of 70 of a family of 70 to a nation of 600,000. A nation who is about to enter into an extension of the covenant with God by being bound by the laws of Torah, thereby becoming a kingdom of priests, a holy nation to God. This moment of revelation has been built up since God first spoke to Abraham. Yet for some, this moment of revelation appears to not need such a grand introduction. A question posed by Parshat Bo in the Midrash Tanchuma asked why the Torah did not begin with the first commandment given to the Israelites. The Midrash states, Rabbi Isaac said, it was only necessary to write the Torah from the words, this month shall be for you. Why did God write from in the beginning? Since establishing the calendar as the first commandment of the Israelite people, the Midrash is asking why the entire book of Genesis and the first 11 chapters of Exodus even exist. Why did God deem all that narrative necessary? The Midrash answers, to make known God's mighty powers, as it is stated in Psalms, God revealed to God's people God's powerful works in giving them the inheritance of nations. The narrative surrounding the creation of the world, selecting Abraham, Joseph and his brothers, all of it is essential to understanding the justification of giving the land of Israel. We can understand the giving of the Holy Land to the Israelites as a law to all the nations that is only understood through the narrative of our Torah. Without that narrative found in the Torah, the law would not make sense. This interplay between law and narrative demonstrates how essential narrative is to understanding the laws. Professor Moshe Simon Shoshan, in his book Stories of the Law, summarized Robert Cover's famous Nomos and Narrative essay. Narrative and law are two fully distinct, though interrelated realms. In his view, laws can only exist in the context of the stories which define their origin and authority. So just as the giving of the land of Israel to the Israelites requires a story, so too does the giving of our Torah require a story. Once upon a time, there were these people. Descended from one family, they now numbered 600,000. They were rescued out of slavery and witnessed and experienced a multitude of wonders against their oppressors. 3 months after leaving Egypt, they wait at the base of a mountain. This nation, the house of Jacob, the people of Israel, were told through their prophet Moses that they were to be in a state of purity and to be ready, because in 3 days' time, God would come down in sight of all the people. On that third day, lightning and thunder began at the rise of dawn. A dense cloud from the heavens came upon the mountain. The loud blast of the horn sounded, and the people trembled. The mountain in smoke, God in a fire, the horn growing louder and louder. Moses spoke, and God answered as thunder. Ensuring the safety of the perimeter of the mountain was crucial, for all were warned, if they touched it, they would die. In the midst of all this, God spoke thus, I am the Lord your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. The story of giving of Torah at Sinai is one of a miraculous and terrifying event. Sounds getting louder, a mountain on fire, lightning flashing across the sky, and the voice of God is not the still small voice it was for Elijah. The thunderous voice is too much for the people that they beg Moses to not let God speak with them, for they fear they will surely die. The Torah is not given as this quiet moment where we are blessed with this holy book and all the knowledge God has granted us. It is not this moment where all feel as if we too can approach God. Masachet Shabbat adds to this already frightening narrative. Rabbi Avdimi Bar Chama Bar Chasa said the Jewish people actually stood beneath the mountain, and the verse teaches that the Holy One, blessed be God, overturned the mountain above the Jews like a tub and said to them, if you accept the Torah, excellent, and if not, there will be your burial. God, threatening to drop the mountain on the heads of the entire people, quickly has them agreeing to the Torah. Coerced out of fear, the Israelites and their descendants are now bound by these laws. Sifei Devarim teaches that God went around to all the nations asking if they would accept the Torah, but each said no because there was some aspect of it they could not follow. Finally, God comes to the Israelites and they accept the Torah in its entirety. This midrash is in tension with the midrash of how it was given. If we had already accepted it, why threaten us into submission? Tosfot offers that when the Israelites saw the great fire on the mountain, they would have retracted their acceptance. The story revolving around the giving of the law affects how we relate to the law itself. If I follow this coercive narrative, the laws I follow, such as remembering Shabbat and keeping it, honoring my parents, not murdering even, are not because they are right or because they have some positive spiritual impact, but because I fear the mountain and I fear God. Whether we want it to or not, the narrative surrounding the giving of Torah has an effect and an impact on our connection with the law. Whether I have just the Exodus text itself or I read Masechet Shabbat's account into it, the giving of Torah was a scary event. People backed up to the edges of the camp where they had previously just been steps from the base of the mountain. People ran from God, not drew closer. If that's the narrative, can we change it? Can I change it so God's presence is not repelling and fright-inducing, but rather inviting and full of warmth? Can I get the equivalent of asking my dad for 2 more wishes? But just as my dad would not let me change the story, so too we cannot change the narrative about how our Torah was given. Although we cannot change the story that we have, it does not mean we cannot change the impact it has on us. The midrash of the mountain being held over the Israelites doesn't end there. After the victory over Haman and the saving of all the Jews of Shushan, the book of Esther says, the Jews undertook and irrevocably obligated themselves and their descendants and all who might join them. What is it that they obligated themselves in? The Gemara says the Jews ordained what they had already taken upon themselves through coercion at Sinai. Not out of fear, but out of love for the miracle they experienced, says Rashi. Their experiences changed how they felt about the giving of Torah so much that they said, we no longer wish to be the people who only accepted Torah because we are threatened with a mountain over our heads, but rather the people who are lovingly bound by these commandments and accept them willingly. They could no longer relate to the Torah in the same way after their experiences. Who they are now is not who they were then. Rabbi Michelle Masagia concludes her commentary on this parsha with, Torah, our greatest collective story, is a compelling force in Israel's life. The story might threaten us into submission or cause us to wander, but it is compelling and life-defining. When we don't like a story, we can ignore it, change it, or accept it. I ultimately accepted the Magic Apple story because without my changes, it was about the importance of family and being together. But the narrative of being coerced by God to accept Torah is not as easily reconciled. But we can't change our history, nor can we ignore it. So in order to have a positive relationship with Torah, we must wrestle with it, and we must be working towards acceptance. We have to have that deep dive. This is our mandate as the receivers of Torah, and to therefore be a member of the people of Israel. Just like our ancestor Jacob struggled with God, prevailed, and was given the name of Israel, so too we struggle with God. And as the people of Israel, and hopefully will prevail. And maybe, if we're lucky, we can be like the Jews of Shushan and have our own moment of accepting the Torah with love. To my parents, thank you for sharing your stories and your wisdom with me. You raised me to who I am today, and I couldn't be more grateful for everything you have done for me and the continued ways you show your unconditional love and support. My sister and my brother-in-law, thank you for being there for me and for always be willing to help me and share your expertise. And lastly, to my cohort. I had this whole other drasha written where I talked about the importance of finding yourself a yitro. You're about to enter the cantorate and the rabbinate, and as clergy, we're going to be pushed to our limits like Moshe was. So my bracha for you is to find yourself a yitro who will provide you with loving guidance, whose sole duty is supporting you. Inspired by the future Rabbi Weisfeld, to quote Dr. Seuss, there is no one alive who is youer than you. The Jewish people are so lucky to have you. And I cannot wait to see what you become. I invite you to rise for Gedish Rabbanon on page 13. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabba, be'ama dirach kirtei v'amich malchutei, v'chayachon u'byomachon u'chayei dechol be'Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Omer Maya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Dekudasha B'richu, Le'ela Mikol B'chata V'shirata, Chushbechata V'nechamata, Damiran Be'ama V'imru Amen. Al Yisrael V'al Rabbanan V'al Talmidehon V'al Kol Talmidei Talmidehon V'al Kol Man Daskim B'araita Di V'atra Hadein V'di V'chol Atar V'atar Yehi Lachon Ulchon Shlama Rabba China V'chista V'rachamim V'chayin Arichin U'mizuna V'vicha U'forkana Mi Kodom Abuhon Di V'shmaya V'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Tovim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mamav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen.
Amen.